Hello, and welcome to my first ever YouTube video. You might know me by Yusil or Rao, depending on where you find me. I'm in several Discords for this game. I play a lot of Assassin, and ever since Hunted came out, I've been really interested in using the Graphene Chelicera cards for Uzuri. Not just the Graphene Chelicera itself, because you can attack with it and swap into something, but I'm also really interested in trying to make Whittle from Bone work. If you attack with it and they are marked, you can swap into something else and still get the dagger, which you can then attack with and swap out later, or just flick for an extra reaction. I found that very interesting, but the marking package itself doesn't really work well with this area. And people keep telling me this deck doesn't work, but I figured I'd find out myself, so I tried to make it work. I recorded a lot of games, and I've been editing them down to this video, so I can kind of share that with you. The quality is a bit inconsistent. I'm kind of learning as I go, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Okay, we're gonna try to do this one quickly. I've made a few attempts at this, and I'm talking way too long. The deck works, but it also does not work at all. I played 9 games, which is a small sample size, but this is like a casual deck, so don't need to go too deep into it. These are Talishar random games. But we did manage a 9 win streak, and it felt like the deck didn't work at all. Will to Bone, we never managed to do the thing where we make the Chelicera. Or we played twice, and we managed to make a Chelicera once with it. If you go here, you see this. It's not great. For equipment, we're running Decktech and Mask of Perdition. They're rebuy, they're extra reactions, they have block, they're good. Tunic. Tunic is not super important in this deck. If you don't own a Tunic, this is super playable without it. You'd probably want a Redback Shroud, or you can probably get away with running any of the... I think Redback Shroud is super playable in this deck. But yeah, you could probably get away with running one of the common resource granting equipment, and this deck would function. It would not be ideal, but it would definitely function. You could probably get away with running... what's the outsider one that gives you a resource? That one. Double Troubles. I love Double Trouble. It's my favorite stealth attack, probably. Or at least I feel like it's underappreciated. The red one is the highest damage we have on a stealth attack. It mills 2 cards, so it attacks health and deck damage. Yellow is as much damage as a fully activated bonds, which is neat. So we have more of those, more of that damage. The blue is the highest damage blue we have that is not Bonds of Agony, in the stealth department at least. We're running Justin X, we're running Kiss of Deaths, mostly because there's synergy with Torrential Toxin or Weaver Spinneret, and the fact that it's another reaction if you flick it. If we're not running the Mark package, I think we're probably cutting this. It works really well with Stains of the Redback, which I think might be good enough to run without the Mark package. The Go Again is super useful. The Tunic resource is not super contested, so paying for this is not really a problem. You can do lines where you throw a stealth attack, use Stains of the Redback, then Codex CNC. It's pretty useful. Shakedown is really strong, obviously. Don't be afraid to just pay for this card using resources. If you don't have a stealth, we have a lot of stealths, but if you don't, just pay to throw this at them, and then activate any of your reactions to turn on the ability. Often they'll just block it if you throw it, but you get 2 cards for their one. You get 2 cards for your one. Very good. This is fairly standard, I think. Torrential Toxin is mostly because I wanted these to play with each other. This is very good with Chelicera. Whittle from Bone is very awkward. You need to mark them before this attacks, but then you can swap out of it into any of the good things, and you get a dagger on the back. The problem is you basically have to either have already committed the Nerve Scalpel, so you have the free slot, then you can attack with Hunter's Clave, hope they don't block it, and then throw Whittle from Bone. Or you have to throw this and then attack with this, which means you either have to have a two attack wide turn, not including swinging this dagger, or you need to set this in Arsenal and have thrown this the turn before, or just be lucky. This does not come up very often. This is a very low investment card slot. The problem is the Hunter's Clave. It doesn't work very well because you feel very restricted into not using this, or you lose access to this, which means you often just, it's worth it. I'm just going to throw the Hunter's Clave and give up on the Whittle from Bone interaction this game. And that feels super fine. But it also means you don't do the thing. And it's a bit of a disappointment because I wanted this to work really well. But it becomes a lot more awkward in practice than it looks on paper to me. Because this is such a low investment card slot. And this seems like a low investment card slot. But the way you restrict your flick knives usage, the way you take lines that are not guaranteed to work to set this up is weird. You often have to keep bigger hands. Keeping this is fine. I did not like the Hunter's Clave. And Orb Spinneret is just awkward because you can't swap out of the stealth attack. In some lines that's fine. You can send like a double trouble with a Orb Spinneret, pump it up with some reactions, and it does a ton of damage, and that seems fine. But a lot of the time when I play this, I've not committed the daggers yet, and if I'm pumping up a double trouble and then throwing a dagger, I've wasted this effect, which is how it felt most of the time. Luckily, there are 3 blocks, both of these, which means I just end up blocking with them. It's kind of sad. For inventory, we have Already Dead. This is very good into the warriors. I've killed multiple Valiant Dynamos in just a few games I've played. It's good against Guardians. They have a lot of Temper and Battle Worn. I've killed Shields. I've killed Valiant Dynamos, like I said. I've killed Jarl's Arms. This is very strong. You kind of have to be careful with how you're presenting damage. You can kind of bait them into blocking stealth attacks a lot of the time. But you have to be like careful about how you do it. You don't want to scare them off blocking completely. Like if you're keeping a really big hand and throwing a Bonds of Agony, sometimes they just give up on blocking. They're just like, send it to me. If you're throwing like a Persuasive Prognosis as your only attack, and with this, they might just give you 2 cards, in which case Already Dead does nothing. You want to do like a medium investment thing, like having 2 cards in hand and throwing like a double trouble, and then you have this to swap into, and like another stealth attack to put in arsenal. That makes the card very useful. Command and Conquer, you could just put that in main deck. It goes in almost every matchup. It's very strong. I just have it here for my own organization, really. Pick Up the Point. You can swap into this for go again. It also brings you back daggers. Realistically, you bring back Nerve Scalpels, because the matchups where you bring this in are slow matchups, and slow matchups usually run a bunch of D-reacts. So you bring back Nerve Scalpels and keep throwing them to stop them from just like sinking your Leave No Witnesses and stuff. It's bringing this back feels very good. Upsticks, sort of same idea. You bring it into slow matchups, you swing the Nerve Scalpel. They either have to spend their D-reacts on your upsticks, or they get hit by Nerve Scalpel, their D-reacts get worse, and then if they still block with them, you can throw them. Nerve Scalpel, one underrated thing about Nerve Scalpel is it's all reaction cards. It's not just defense reaction cards. I think people forget that sometimes. Attacking with Nerve Scalpel into Warrior is very useful, it means they have to block with their non-attack actions. If this hits them, it's actually very useful. Against the Fang, it's very useful against the Kassai. It does a lot of work, and it being piercing 1 is very useful. One thing with running piercing daggers is if they're running Valiant Dynamos, you can't just swing a dagger and then send already dead, because they'll never block these with armor. They will sometimes, but never with like a 1-block armor because of piercing. If you had a dagger like the new dagger, obviously you can't run that, but a dagger without piercing, basically, you might prompt a block with their dynamos on that. It's obviously not worth running a worse dagger just to be able to do this, but it's interesting and worth keeping in mind. Burning some AB, this can be swapped around. I was under the impression that we wanted flick knives in all matchups for Hunter's Glaive. In reality, that's not true, so you can easily swap out this one for arms, or this one if you want the go again into Kana, for example. You can also run Lantern. It's fine. You'd probably run head arms Lantern in that case, which would be fine, and then you just run whichever dagger you prefer. If you wanted to cut this to just a regular Uzuri deck, you probably switch this to Spider's Bite. You swap this into maybe a Shred. This can be swapped into something else. I don't think you need more stuff. This could be another reaction. You could run extra Fates. I'll make a follow-up video with a deck I have modified to run without the mark package, and we'll see how that looks. But yeah, let's go into some gameplay. Okay, first I'm gonna show a few clips of things happening throughout the various games I played, and then we'll end on a full game against a Boltyn, which was very interesting, I thought. This clip here shows a scenario where you just draw Whistle from Bone early, and it doesn't really do anything. Now, you can obviously send these to the bottom, either by pitching them or swapping out of them. But the odds of you still having the clave while you come back around is pretty low. We're not shuffling our deck, so it's just going to be stuck at the bottom. It's not very exciting there. This happens a lot, where you draw it, and you still have the daggers. You don't really have the room to use it. And keeping the Nerve Scalpel is actually more valuable than getting the Chelicera. This happens too much. We also have a Kiss of Death here, which is awkward. We're running this because it synergizes with other parts of the mark package. Or like cards we want to run together with it. It's an okay card, but it's not really good in this deck. Here we're drawing double Spinnerets. We don't even have a stealth attack. We still have both our daggers. And now that we blocked with them, our ability to make daggers later is much reduced. We could sink one of them away, but yeah, we do not do that. It's just, this happens a lot. You see them and just like, oh, at least it's the 3-block, which is basically every assassin card. At least every pure assassin card. A lot of the hunted cards are 2 blocks, but that's because they're warrior and ninja cards most of the time. Here I walk into a reprise. Okay. Here's a clip where I arsenal a Bonds of Agony, and I draw a hand with a reaction. But I'm now in a scenario where to activate this, I need to spend 3 reactions. I can use my mask, I can use my boots, and I can use the Razor's Edge. But I don't actually want to use the mask. The mask is pretty good in this matchup to gain silvers. I also end up not blocking with it, I believe. what I really want to do here is throw one of my knives. But if they're not pre-committing defense reactions on me, and they don't really have a reason to when I'm leading with the bombs, I don't want to throw the nerve scalpel, because the nerve scalpel is very good. Here I have a clean block, so I don't want to spend the mask. So what I actually want to do is throw my spare knife. But doing so shuts off the Whittle from Bones for the rest of the game. And I'm in this awkward scenario where I don't want to do the play I want to do, because I'm running a card that gets actively worse if I do it. I end up just hesitating here for a second, because I don't want to throw it, because this is like a few games into this deck, and I still have never done the thing with the Whittle from Bone. Here we're cutting to later in the game. I draw a Whittle from Bone. I've thrown the knife. I don't run the retrieve package in this matchup, so it's just a dead card. I need to block here anyway. You see we crept back the life lead a bit, but we're still behind. It's just so awkward. We end up just blocking with it because it doesn't do anything. And it feels like this is every game with this deck. It just doesn't quite do the thing. Like, the deck works, it plays well, you win games with it, you win some really hard games with it. I'm a bit sad I didn't record all my games, but that would have been a long session of recording, and yeah, just editing that would have been a nightmare. I had some Jarl games that were pretty cool, but I didn't end up recording. Here, we're just not willing to commit the nerve scalpel just yet. We're setting up the double trouble for later. Buying back a mask. We're very fine, just taking a bit of a break. We have a much higher deck quality than our opponent at this point. Here is a bit later in the game. I'm probably going to show the rest of this game. I'm hitting with a surgical extraction here. And what I want to show here is we've been very diligent not giving them copper this game. They only have 1 copper. What this does is make them do lines like this, where they play a blood from their hands for just go again. This is so rough for them. So not only are we denying them cards through like milling and just making them spend them on attack, we also make their lines really bad. Here I just want to show we're like in a fatigue scenario, essentially. They're very low in cards. Their deck quality is absolutely horrible. And we're still drawing an active red double trouble or a shakedown in this hand. We can just pick and choose. Our lines are really good. Whereas they're playing like a bunch of terrible blues. Here is a weird bug where their Shelter of the Storm pops up. No one's played a Shelter. It's just there for some reason. Don't know what's up with that Talishar, but it's interesting. It doesn't do anything. Damage is still done and stuff, so I don't know. I think it's just the wrong icon, maybe. Here we swap into a shakedown. We throw the knife because it's lethal, but they have a Shelter. Here I'm picking a yellow because I know they have a yellow. They're stuck with 2 blues, one of which is a glint, so I don't want to block this. So I don't want to give them reprise. Here I'm like double checking some stuff, but I couldn't be bothered, so I just block with the flick knives. They played the glint. And then they pump their sword and swing it. We block out because we have isolate. We know they don't have any directs left or anything. They used their Shelter, so we know this kills. They give us a card, and we kill them. Here's a game against Azalea. This was a very dominant game, like as you can tell by the life total. But here is like the first time in these 9 games where I draw a Whittle from Bone, I have a spare dagger slot, and I have the Hunter's Glaive. I am excited. This is like, it's going to finally happen. It is happening. They have a very awkward hand where they end up like flipping their codex away, running a Ravenous Rabble at us. We don't care. This does nothing. We have such a life lead. We'll just take this. My opponent's been pretty unlucky this game. I also think they were kind of newish, or at least new to the deck. They took a few high risks involving blind flips and things. They missed once, which gave me a lot of tempo. Here, I don't really care about most of these cards. I just want to get rid of this in case I need to set up an arsenal somehow. Sync is much better in arsenal. And here I have it. Finally. Oh yeah, I end up not wanting to arsenal the sync. Having a stealth in arsenal is really strong, so I just spend my tunic counter. Here I'm like reconsidering if I should just pitch the double trouble instead. I didn't want to rewind because my opponent is so far behind. I don't want to do a bunch of takebacks and optimize my turn and stuff. It's just, I felt rude. I don't need it. I'm winning this game regardless. They're down most of their threats. I'm up like 27 health. Here they're trying to not block with cards and just give me armor. And they block out the clave. Who double blocks the clave with armor in Azalea? I'm so upset, you can say by the mouse. I finally got it, and they give me Skullbone and Tunic to stop it. So what does Whittle do? It comes in for 1, and I have to play a Razor's Edge to bring it to 4. This is the worst card ever. I'm so upset. Like, here's a game against Fang. Oh yeah, I wanted to show this. You may have noticed in the Kassai gameplay that I got the dynamos there. I didn't show it. But here I want to show. I get a... Yeah, he does a redo. But I have a hand with already dead in my opener. I really want to kill his dynamo. I really do. And I'm willing to eat some damage to do it. Here comes the sword. I want to make sure he can't, like, mark me. So I want to actually block. He has to commit cards to mark me here. I block with the Wilt from Bone because every time I see it. And here we have a choice. We can send the Isolate. We could also send the Double Trouble. I want to make sure this dagger, this already dead hits. So I'm swinging the Nerve Scalpel here because I really don't want him to be able to hit me with a D-React. So we're sending Isolate. It's gonna be really difficult for him to cover this. We swap into it here, and he will play a defense reaction. You can throw Nerve Scalpel here to just preemptively, in case he has a second D-React. But I think that's very high commitment. We have more already deads. This is probably hitting. If you want to be certain, you can throw the Nerve Scalpel before they do the Sync Draw. And it probably works for you. We banish the Dynamos, and we get a Shelter into Arsenal. This is a very strong start. We won this game. It didn't go to fatigue or a kill. My opponent conceded. He lost tempo, and I kept him from I basically ran him out of fealty. He had to commit them to keep fealty alive. He had to repeatedly break fealty. Here's just the amount of damage you get out of Double Trouble sometimes. This is actually a pretty funny turn. I come in for 16. He's currently blocking 1. Here's a Sync Blow. So he's blocking 5 now. Here's our Fate Foreseen. So it's up to 9 against my 16. He's doing them one at a time to make sure I don't Nerve Scalpel him. If you just put all of them on the stack at the same time, I could have Nerve Scalpeled. Here he's playing 3 defense reactions. We're only hitting for 3, but we are milling 4 cards, which is very important. Like you can tell, we're up cards and health now, but more importantly, up cards. If you get Fang to second cycle, his deck is terrible. It's absolutely awful. It's pretty difficult to get there. One of you is usually killing the other by then, because you're both attack reaction decks. But it can happen. So, we're at the full gameplay of this match versus Boltyn. I picked this match because I think a lot of people don't play much against Boltyn, and they don't really know what he's capable of. It's very easy to make mistakes. It's very easy to die. And I make a lot of mistakes in this game. I think there's a right way of playing against him, and I partially do this in this game. But I also make some pretty big blunders. But it does show off one of the strengths of the deck, which is milling the opponent. Boltyn is a character who's pretty susceptible to this. You do want to try to run him out of cards, but doing so can be very dangerous, because if you give him a lot of space, he will just kill you. Here he's just playing efficient lines, throwing Raiden at us. We do not keep the Whittle, because it doesn't work this early. We also drew an Orb Weaver very early, which is also annoying. I will note that we're both running 3 extra cards in our deck. For me, that was Orb Weaver Spinneret. I normally would cut that, but I just wanted to try to make it work. So here we're sending a Precise Prognosis, we're giving it go again, and we're going to try to arsenal the Spinneret. Here we find a V for the Vanguard, which is very strong, and probably the reason he didn't block. He was probably just hoping we hit his red or something. Greedy play, but I get it. It's a very short match. He is putting a Celestial Cataclysm to the bottom, which is pretty important to know in this matchup. When he gets to 3 soul, that hits very hard for 1 card. So it's very important in fatigue scenarios. Here we're not really blocking this, and he is playing a Lumina Ascension. Lumina Ascension is very interesting when you're playing a mill deck, because you kind of want him to hit, because it takes cards out of his deck. But it gives him soul, which is very dangerous, which is why I'm taking a moment to think here. If you block this with attacks, it gets +1, which is somewhat annoying. He is very face up though. He has no tricks. So this is just an attack. He will have 1 more swing afterwards. I'm not willing to block out both attacks, so I'm just going to block out the second attack. Which, yeah, I have double Spinneret. I'm visibly annoyed by it. Here I'm like considering using some knives. And I will. And we're just sending this for damage. This is not a good line. I wished in hindsight that I'd blocked with the Orb Weaver instead of putting it in Arsenal. It's just... this is not really good enough. I mean, we are up life, and this is hitting for 7. But it doesn't really do that much. I mean, getting him to a place where he has to block is very useful. And here we're lucky. He has a hand that just doesn't do anything. And because of Nerf Scalpel against Warrior, his cards block absolutely awful. Here I'm actually just going to try to get some damage in. We're committing the boots very early, just for some damage, because he is going to have an off turn, and we just want to push the advantage. If we can get him into a defensive posture, we're very happy, and this just pushes damage. Yeah, closing combat chain, ending turn, and he's just Arsenal passes because he drew a completely dead hand. Here we have a bunch of options. We do want to end on an Arsenal, which is a stealth attack. So we're probably just attacking with dagger. Okay, he definitely has a defense reaction here, because he is not willing to let us do the same thing with Nerve Scalpel. So he's probably just gonna send D-reacts to this. There is a possibility where he has a bunch of blocking reactions, and that's why he's blocking Nerve Scalpel, but he could have just blocked with our reaction at that point. So here's an interesting thing. He reduces the attack of Shakedown. Of the Isolate, and then we swap it. So the reduction doesn't actually stick, but he has a second saving grace, so... But he does commit 3 whole cards to that defense, and we only committed 1. So we're already going up cards, which is very good. Here we have a Whittle from Bone that doesn't do anything, like usual, so we're just going to block with it. This hand is really awkward, because it doesn't really go together. But I'm going to send the double trouble here. Because I'm more concerned with actual deck damage than I am actual damage. He's going to heal a bunch on his Luminas. It's not the most important thing. So here we're just sending a double trouble. We're playing the Justinic. If he has a D-react here, he has one. This hand doesn't really do anything else. So we're just sending this for deck damage. Since we're ahead, we're okay taking card neutral trades. We spent 2 cards to mill 3 there, which is not card neutral, but we would have been fine just trading 2 for 2 as well. His deck also has a bunch of not high value cards like this, attacks for 3. We block with a reaction, so it doesn't get pumped, so he actually has to spend his Snapdragons. We're very happy with that. Sends a Raiden. We don't really care about Raiden. And he has a very big hand. He gives us a Lumin Ascension. We have a D-React to cover this. And we will. We don't really need these. We're probably just going to defend this turn, so we're looking for a better card. Here he plays a second Lumina, so he's going to go to 5. We can discard Shelter of the Storm here to cover this. But he's going to do me 1 damage and mill 2 cards, and I'm kind of fine with that. He gets a Beacon of Victory, which is very important, because we're giving him a big soul here. So we want him not to have Beacon of Victories. So we're very happy that that worked out for us. We got rid of one of those. We got 2 cards out of his deck for 1 damage. This one we're covering. And now we need to think, do we cover the third one? Yes. 6. He currently has 5 soul. 5 soul is a lot. This deck, like you can tell, this deck does a lot of damage sometimes. But now he's out of Lumin Ascensions. He is, however, at 5 soul, which is very high. Here sends an Express Lightning. He no longer has Snapdragons. So unless he has an attack reaction he's willing to play on this, I don't want to block this. Because if I block him, I've given him reprise effects. He probably doesn't run many of those, but I don't want to block with an attack to pump it so he can give it go again. We're just fine taking the damage. We'd rather cover something important with the Sink Below. His hand is just dead. Here gives me 2 Light the Ways, which is interesting. Light the Way is a very unreliable card in this matchup because we block a lot. He might not have a yellow. It's worth remembering. Here we just swap because we want a Leave No Witness in Arsenal, and we like the stealth attacks left in the deck. Arsenal has Sink. Here's another Express Lightning. He did not have a yellow. Here's an interesting choice, because we have the Sink and an unplayable hand. We normally wouldn't block this, but we just want better cards. This hand is kind of awful. We can just Codex and just give up a card. We can also swing daggers into the Codex. We have the Tunic. We have all the playables, basically. We have CNCs, we have Leave No Witness. here I'm just opening with the dagger and seeing what happens. Yep, so they're letting this hit. We could have swung a second dagger and pumped it with Tarantula Toxin. I don't really want to. I'm sending this because it banishes cards. It gives me life. It gives me more of a buffer. We can crack Mask on this if he doesn't block it out. He ends up blocking it out. We arsenal Justinic, which is fine. We have not seen many of our one attacks, so it shouldn't be too dead. We can always just play it for a mill, but on our Ponder we get a better arsenal. It's more reliable. We have Tunic up. Here's a V for the Vanguard. He doesn't have a big hand though. He has like one attack follow up and a Raiden, and the attack if he has an attack, it's in arsenal, which is not a big deal. Here I'm like, I don't really want to overblock because he is going to send more attacks, so I just block with one card. He sends Raiden. I block efficiently. And here is a Bolting Blade. Here I basically have no options. These cards block awful here. They're both 2 blocks essentially. And I'm just going to take the 8 damage, go to 15. I'm very comfortable being low here. He doesn't have a lot of the scary cards left. He has Celestial Cataclysms and stuff. It's not too bad. We're going to mill a lot of cards here. I'm considering cracking the Mask here. And I do. I want to keep the Flick Knives. Here I mill a Beacon of Victor and a Celestial Cataclysm. So he has very few of the power cards. Here I'm looking through, seeing how many Beacon of Victory is gone. And I see all 3. I'm very happy. I'm probably winning this game. I am, however, somewhat overconfident, because he still has Celestial Cataclysms. And I'm going to make some critical misplays this game. Here I draw a hand where the Justinic I just arsenaled is basically dead. I can play it on Double Trouble. But I'm probably just looking to send Double Trouble Shakedown. This has go again, so we don't have to care too much about giving it a pump. But we're also not entirely sure what he's doing, so we're just covering. He's blocking efficiently. The Double Trouble here is dead in the hand, so we might as well just give it. Here we send Double Trouble with a Shakedown. If you hit with Shakedown, you always pick yellow. All their power cards are yellow. They don't have a single red that's better than a yellow. Here they cover with the D-React. They're now at very high soul totals. This is a Bolt of Courage. They have an arsenal, so we don't actually care if this hits. But we have the spare D-React, so might as well. You can't block it with an attack because they get go again. You want to minimize Raiden swings as much as you possibly can. Here we're sending in Double Trouble. We have Justinic, we have the swap in. And we have a Flick Knives. And here we're giving up the Clave again. We still have Whittles in the deck, but we don't care. Always bonds first. And here is a mistake I make. Because, yeah, I miss one of them in hand. Because as soon as I clicked on one, they move. And I look up and see, like, why do they still have 2 cards in hand? I could have just rewinded. But I'm like 14-4, and I don't want to just, like, redo. It feels bad. I probably should. In a real match, in real life, you can't make that mistake. This almost costs me the game. It is really bad. Because he almost makes a comeback from me not taking that card from him. Yep. Giving it go again. I'm just taking damage here. And he sends a Celestial Cataclysm. He would not be able to send both of those attacks on me. And I'm suddenly concerned. Because I've lost track, but I don't think I think he still has a Celestial Cataclysm in hand. I gave him a few blocks. And it hurts a lot. He swings Raiden. I go down to 3. So suddenly, I almost lost the game just from that misclick. You obviously can't do that in person, but it's still, like, scary how much damage he just throws out from a 2 card. Yeah, just 3 cards. It's, like, very scary. Here's an Abundance of Agony. I'm trying to get him to commit extra blocks. And he does. So I just play my Sigil and Arsenal the Leave Now. If he doesn't block, I just swap in the Leave Now and keep the Sigil in Arsenal. Keeping Sigil is very good. It makes them like overextend for damage sometimes. Here I'm kind of fine. Just this hand doesn't really work. I have the Leave Now stuck there, so Codex doesn't really do anything. I can send a CNC, but he's probably not going to keep an Arsenal. The Surgical Extraction is difficult to play, and he still has Tunic Block. So I'm pretty happy just giving him a bunch of cards here. He's not charged, so it's safe to block with the CNC. It doesn't pump his damage. I believe this is the last Celestial Cataclysm, so he doesn't have a lot of high damage left, so we can sort of just take it easy. Here I have a choice. I believe I'm going to play the Codex, even though it doesn't do anything for me or for him, just for the Frailty token. We're so low that he needs every efficiency he can get, so I'm just going to do that. He's going to have to give me a card and Tunic here, or lose his Arsenal and a card from deck and die. So his hand got a lot worse because he kind of has to protect his Arsenal. The Frailty is like extra impact. Here's he still has Valiant Thrusts, and I remember like, ooh, not seen a lot of those. They're scary. I get a 2-card Arsenal. I draw a Whittle from Bone, which I cannot activate. He sends a Beacon of Courage. I'm safe to block this because it's minus attacked from the Frailty. So if I block it, it pumps to 3, which is not higher than base, so we can't give it go again. He, however, has a Courageous Steel hand. So again, I almost die. Boltyn is kind of scary if you're playing recklessly. He has a lot of damage. He is a warrior after all. You kind of forget that playing against him because he throws so many attacks at you. But he has a lot of attack reactions that are very high value. He didn't have a Beacon of Victory this game, so I played way too reckless. Normally I'd be very careful in this state against Boltyn, but he didn't have any Beacon of Victories, so I thought it was kind of safe. And here I'm considering if he has another Courageous Steel hand, but he would have just killed me on the last attack, so I don't have to worry about it too much. I'm just going to conserve life. I don't need the Tunic anymore. It doesn't do anything for me. Here I'm considering sending Isolate, a swap into Leave Now, but he just concedes. He doesn't have cards left. I'll just kill him. There's like no damage left in the deck. Thank you for making it to the end of my first ever YouTube video. If you like this format, please let me know. It's kind of experimental, and I've learned a bunch of stuff just making this video in terms of how to make the quality better and stuff. I'm still adjusting things. The audio quality is not where I want it. But if you like the format, please let me know. I could make it without the clips section and just have the deck explanation and the actual gameplay. I could edit it down a bit. I could edit it more if you want more of the clip section. I could just record a bunch of videos, clip out all the cool stuff. Let me know how this feels. It's kind of experimental. But again, thank you for making it to the end of the video.